Welcome to the Wimlex Show, episode number 38, presented by me, Alex from Spryker Systems, Lena from Bright Payment, and Wilhelm from the Debt Agency. Today, our guest is Moritz Kuhn from Haglöfs. Haglöfs is one of the leading outdoor performance brands. So whenever you're going to go hiking in high mountains or just need a very good rain jacket, you should look out for Haglöfs. Moritz is country manager Germany, Austria at Haglöfs, and he's going to explain us how the business is working for such a brand because it's a very special brand, very, very known in the Nordic countries, in Sweden and Denmark, in Norway. Not so much known in Central Europe. How he's going to expand, how he's going to use marketplaces like Amazon About You for his expansion plans. How important is the direct-to-consumer arm of his business? So it's a very interesting episode. And on top of that, Moritz gave us a voucher code. The voucher code is WIMLEX20, which means it's 20% off the Haglöfs products. You can just visit their stores. It's valid from the 12th of June to the 31st of December this year. And you can use it one time and one time only. So before you go heading off to the Haglöfs store, buying your next performance jacket or backpack, please listen to our episode and be inspired of what Haglöf is doing.
Welcome, everyone, to a new session of the Wimlex podcast. Especially exciting this time because we're three again in the podcast with a special guest from a Swedish brand today, from Haglöfs. So it's Alex, myself, and Moritz here. Hi, welcome, Moritz.
Thank you, Lena. Hi.
It's a pleasure to have you on the show, especially because you and I were sharing a bit of a similar context. We're both Germans working in a Swedish setting. Please tell us about yourself and the company you're working for.
Yeah, thank you, Lena. As you said, my name is Moritz, and I'm the head of digital sales for Haglöfs. I'm responsible for our own e-commerce and our marketplace business. My background is both in branding, but also in commerce, having worked for Adidas before and also Zalando. And I have also a second responsibility within Haglöfs. I'm responsible for the wholesale business for Germany and Austria. So, but the digital part is based in Sweden.
And for those listeners who are not familiar with the Haglöfs brand, what do you produce? What do you sell?
Yeah, so we are the progressive outdoor performance brand from Sweden. We were founded in 1914 by Viktor Haglöf in Dalarna, Sweden. Basically, we really want to inspire people to get to the outdoors. That's our core objective. And most people would know us from mountaineering, so pretty much Nordic mountaineering products, free ride or lightweight trekking. That's really our core. And we really do head to toe products. So you can get any kind of textile, shoes, backpacks from our brand. And it's not that many brands in the sector that go head to toe. And our vision is to become the number one responsible outdoor performance brand. So responsible.
So Alex here, also part of this show and this recording. Can you give us a bit more background about like outdoor progressive performance? Because if as a mainstream customer I would go to the next, I don't know, Sportcheck or whatever outdoor shop you could think about, it's like there's like a lot of brands. It's like very hard to differentiate from a customer perspective. What are like the different like levers where you can that make a difference in those products, and maybe tell us also what kind of products you're selling. It's like probably like outdoor wear, jackets. Is it also backpacks? So we have like a better understanding. Are we talking about the Reinhold Messner like outdoor activities here? Is it more like people going to Ischgl, if they're going to Ischgl in the near future, anywhere for 2 weeks, or what kind of performance are we talking about?
Yeah, great question. Thank you, Alex. Basically, it's more or less we could cover all consumer types, but we are more for the specialist, or we would call it the pioneer consumer. So with more ambition and more where other people would consider this person to do extreme activities in the outdoors. This is our core focus consumer. And the second consumer that we are targeting is the outdoor enthusiast. It's a little bit older, probably formerly been a pioneer, but now with more family kind of context. And what kind of product? Our core business really is the outerwear. So textile jackets, from rain jackets, insulation jackets, pants, of course, but also footwear and backpacks, is our core. We actually started Victor Haglöf started 1914 creating a backpack for the harsh condition in the Nordics. So we covered, that's what I meant with a head-to-toe assortment.
So, and maybe stick with like the sport check example here. So
yeah.
How many different SKUs would I find at a good Globetrotter or sport check store looking out for Haglöfs?
Yeah, it really depends on whether you look stationary or online. So in online, in a sport check, you will find round about 700-800 different articles. So for us, an article would be a certain style in a certain color. So not considering the size. If you're going down on SKU level, on size level, then this would be around 3,500 different.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And in a physical shop, the assortment is much, much smaller because typically, as you know, a space is quite a big space constraint, and this consumer group is a bit more niche. So therefore also the retailers select a little bit less product in that segment. So you would find between maybe 20 to 50 different articles in a stationary shop.
Mm-hmm. I don't want to steal Lena all her questions, but maybe let me ask like one more, then let's send back to Lena again. Can you give us some numbers so people can get a better impression about the size from Haglöfs? So before we met, I did not know the brand. Actually, to be fair, obviously I'm not an outdoor performance person, so otherwise I would have known it. But so how many people are working there, and how many countries are you active? Before we are going to the more interesting questions about how you sell.
Yeah, we are we're active in 20 markets. We are around about 170 people worldwide. The core of our business clearly is in Europe, which is around about 85% of our revenue. We also sell through own stores. That's 12 stores in the Nordics, primarily in the Nordics, 6 brand stores and 6 outlets. I know you will ask the revenue question, but it's below 100 million euro.
Yet below 100 million euro. It will be bigger ASAP,
especially after the show. Yes.
Yeah. So that I'm pretty sure it will be bigger. So, but what role does online play in this channel mix?
I guess looking at the current real sales share, it is still pretty low, around about 25 to 30%, looking at all of online, including wholesale. But our own online is much, much less because we started quite late. So we are single digit, as a internal sales share. But of course, the online as a channel plays a very big role for us. We face the same, let's say, structural challenges that everybody else in the market faces. So it's the same for us. And, we need to find the right strategy, to get there.
Lena.
Yeah. So living in Sweden, I know the Haglöfs brand well, of course.
Yes.
Do your online acquisition efforts actually differ between the different regions? I imagine in Sweden, for example, people would probably look specifically for your brand. Is that a state that you've already reached in other markets as well?
Yeah, of course, there's quite a big difference in brand awareness between Sweden, as you said, and then, let's say the more Central European countries. So in Sweden, we're in our target group, we have quite a high brand awareness, where in, let's say the DACH region, Germany, Austria, Switzerland, we are really at a still fairly low awareness. So, but interesting enough, despite the different awareness, our mix of traffic is still very high regarding direct and organic search. So that's by far much more than 50% of our traffic.
Interesting. And what are sort of the main sources? Do you have any particular one that is working particularly well for you?
Well, to be honest, we only started fairly recently with really more actively setting up driving traffic. So search engine advertisement is something that we are now setting up in all our markets. So we are not necessarily in all markets at the same matureness level, but definitely still Google is the acquisition channel for us. Social media, so Facebook, Instagram, works also, but looking at attribution, then definitely search advertisement is much more lucrative for us.
Mm-hmm. And are you available on marketplaces? Does that play a role at all for you? Seeing that there's also several local ones in Sweden and of course Amazon.
Yes, of course. Yes, that's also part of my responsibility, the marketplaces. We are currently active on the Zalando marketplace, on the Spryker marketplace, a German retailer, formerly from the Otto Group, and also on Amazon. But we are actively rolling out further marketplaces this year, primarily in Germany, but we are also looking at Scandinavian potential partners, and that's the setup.
Can we stay a little bit focusing on the role of brick and mortar? Because this morning I had a podcast for Kassenzone with the managing director of Vorwerk. Vorwerk is selling this famous Thermomix and Cobalt stuff, and he was saying, this will never be sold like online as it is sold offline, because they are not competing on price, and it is a product in a Thermomix case which you need to smell, to feel, to really engage with the product values. And when I'm now trying to better understand your product, let's take like a jacket with a very good wind protection KPI, or which is very good like when it's like rainy weather. I think that's the same pitch the brick and mortar retailers like Globetrotter and Spryker gave to vendors like you, to brands, saying, okay, we are able to explain the product values in the direct contact with the customers, something you can't explain just over the internet. And I didn't believe it for mainstream brands, for brands that you can easily buy on Zalando, About You, whatever, that are kind of that people buy for fashion purposes, but I kind of believe this pitch for performance brands like your brand is. And when today a big brick and mortar chain would come to you and say, let's build a shop in shop experience, whatever, so we can present your products in a much better, smarter way, I'm pretty sure that is something you have seen and done in the last 10 years. So what is your view on that now?
Of course, you're absolutely correct. So brick and mortar is not that, and will also not be that in the future. However, the way you can explain and guide the consumer online, also for our more premium and professional kind of use case is getting much, much better. So there's definitely room for both channels. But because it requires quite some knowledge about the product and about technologies and how to use it, there's always a good use case for going into a specialty store to buy such a product. So definitely.
Yeah. So, but these channels are not growing. So you'd rather trust on your direct consumer channel or to other online channels?
Yeah, they're not necessarily growing, but you can still grow as a brand by winning market share. So because our brand awareness is, as I mentioned, not the biggest one, and we are more of a challenger brand outside of the Nordics, there's definitely quite some market share to gain. So from that perspective, there's still quite some potential.
And how do you grow a challenger brand out of Nordics? Are there performance influencers there which are promoting your products?
Yeah, it's a really good question. That's something that we are currently setting up, and can't. I think our marketing director won't like it if I already talk about it now. But there is something in that direction coming, and of course, the product is king first, and creating the right innovative product. And then over the product and the right campaigns and the right channel mix, I think this is the way for success.
And what would happen if you just enter a market? Let's say, I don't know, is Haglöfs a strong brand in France, for example, or Italy, or is it just like still a very little challenger brand in France too?
I would say quite a small challenger brand in France. In Italy, it's a bit different by region. So in the northern part, we're definitely much stronger than in the southern part, but that's due to the closeness to the mountains.
Yeah. Okay. I got this. But if you would enter a market, let's say UK, or a market where you don't have any brand awareness, through a marketplace strategy, because it's easy, it's achievable, it's easy to maintain, and say, okay, here's Zalando, please bring us to UK or please bring us to Poland. Yeah. We don't invest in campaigns. You just get a good price on our products. Would that lead to a good sales success, or does it need to go hand in hand with marketing campaigns, with influencer marketing, with all this stuff?
We're actually about to try this next year in the more eastern part of Europe, where we want to lead in with marketplace first, and then observe how successful it is before we invest in own e-com. And then with own e-com, we would of course need to look into acquisition channels to get the brand awareness up. But we have to also consider that we cannot spend millions in opening up a new market for awareness campaigns.
And do you have influential people, as like old school influencers? How do you say in English? Mountain climbers? Is it the Reinhold Messners in this world that were always Haglöf's promoters with like a more international reach? So is it something you were working with, or was it really like the pure performance of the product that convinced lots of people in the Nordics market to buy Haglöf's products?
It's a mixture. So we have been working with athletes, and we are still working with athletes. And we also, have quite a good resume in the market from the people that have our product. I think you yourself have experienced the performance of the product is actually quite superior. So
it helped me surviving the farm business here. Yeah,
very good. So it's a mixture, but of course, an athlete as such, but also people that are not necessarily top level athletes, but really influential in what they do in the outdoors, are definitely important for us. And we work with such, let's call them influencers.
What's your experience then with Haglöf products?
Me being a mountaineer, you mean?
Yes, yes, obviously.
Having lived in Sweden for a long time, I still haven't gotten to the outdoors as much as I'd like to. But I am curious more. It's because obviously in Sweden you're such a traditional brand and you've been around for such a long time. Is that at all reflected in the type of customers that you attract compared to other markets? I understand, of course, a functional focus. But is there a significant difference between the Nordic, say, Swedish customer and a German, French, newer market customer?
Yes and no. I would say when you look into the use case, there is a bit of a difference in both the more hiking, trekking related, but also in the winter when we go into ski touring free ride. And we can clearly see that the Nordic consumer is more focused on multi-day trips. So going out for a couple of days with the same equipment. While in Central Europe, people would rather do day trips or like an after work ski tour kind of thing. So that's a bit of a different in use case. But other than that, both consumer types need the same level of performance of the product.
So it's functionality that drives, basically. And what about markets outside of Europe, actually? Is there, I mean, there's probably plenty of markets that would be interesting in terms of basically their love of the outdoors. Is that at all something that you're targeting, or?
Of course. So, I mean, we are, I think I haven't mentioned it, but our mother company is ASICS, a Japanese sportswear company. So we are active in Japan. We are also active in China, Korea, and also in the US. And clearly US and China are the biggest outdoor markets in the world. So in terms of market size, very attractive. But it's not necessarily easy to just go there and win the market while the competition is already out there quite big. So we are definitely considering, but at this point, we are focusing more on Europe and really trying to get the market share in Europe to a certain extent before we really invest into going deeply into countries like US or China.
I see.
And if you look at this the other way around, so if there might be Chinese outdoor performance brands, and there's always this saying that they have a different view on production capabilities and maybe outperform you on like pricing or whatever. So is it easy to to copy your products, or do you fear that there might be Chinese or Asian manufacturers that also go there like this performance product way, or haven't you seen such a development in the last years?
No, we have seen there are also brands in Asia that go into the more performance angle, but it is really tough, really hard to copy this. It requires a lot of knowledge, a lot of experience. As I said, we are established 1914, so it's a lot of experience that goes into that creation and production. So it's nothing you can easily copy. So we're not just a white T-shirt or denim in fashion that you can simply copy.
Yeah.
Counterfeit products actually an issue though? Because I think I just recently saw another big brand in Sweden, Fjällräven, which is perhaps a little bit more of a lifestyle product than sort of functionality focused. And I understand they've had quite some issues with some of their backpacks being copied in Asia, and of course not near the quality. And I think it was tested for all kinds of substances as well. So nowhere near the original, obviously, as tends to be the case in counterfeits. But is that something that you have already seen? Or is that maybe not something that is a problem today?
For us, so far, that is not really a big topic. Of course, we need to always watch out and be aware. But I think in this special use case that you're mentioning, that's a very lifestyle-oriented backpack that is quite widely distributed. And therefore, it's a bit of a different use case, and it's really more a fashion topic than an outdoor performance topic. And I think that's really the big difference here.
No, that makes sense, of course.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think it's pretty cool. So let us focus a little bit on like the online customer journey. So when we are talking to other, I wouldn't say like single product brands. You have like a broad arrangement of brands, but it's like you won't buy a winter jacket like every year or like a backpack every year. Then their main concern is building direct to consumer channels that it's probably very expensive acquiring customers. So you would bid maybe on Google AdSense on performance backpack, but Zalando could do the same bit, right?
Yep.
And then the average basket size of Zalando is much bigger, and they have better ways to get the customer back for buying, I don't know, socks, trousers, you name it.
Yep.
But on the other end, we know, and that's a topic I'm doing a lot of research about the platform economy, that eventually the direct access to consumers, that's a trick. You won't rely on platforms on the long term. And most brands kind of have have a very hard time to balance this out. So what is like the best way of gaining direct access versus knowing that like bigger platforms like Otto, About You, Zalando, whatever, might have better customer economics?
Yeah, very good question. Basically, for us, we see this as a good mix. So we see that the platforms are important for us to be visible, to get the awareness up, and to be distributed, because these partners will be the one long-term winning and being there to sell. So that's really to get the first purchase, ideally for the brand. And then when people buy our product and experience the product, the likelihood that if they would like to either, rebuy a similar product or a corresponding product. So let's say you bought a jacket, you're happy with the jacket. Now you're looking for an outdoor pant. The likelihood that you actually then say, oh, I actually like that brand and I want to buy the pant of that brand, is quite high, that people are then going directly onto our website. And so we're not trying to win the entire market. That would be unrealistic for a brand. This is really the core job of a retailer, because they always have the advantage of a huge and broad assortment. We are there to serve the lover of the brand and somebody who really wants performance products. Yeah. So the brand decision has been made more or less prior to coming, unless we really would be bidding for competition or for generic terms, which today we don't even do.
And do you have any way to monetize a customer apart from selling in products? Are there like digital assets where, I don't know, the cheat map how to climb a mountain a little bit faster, like the shortcuts you might use, only available on the Haglöfs app?
No, not yet. Of course, we are always considering and looking for other ways of potential monetization. At this point, and this is all about service. Service is definitely something that we are looking into, and whether we will monetize it or make it for free is still sort of being discussed. But of course, for us to be able to serve the consumer, apart from our assortment breadth, and let's say some special makeups that we only sell through our web shop, is of course that service is an important part.
And do you think that it might be possible? And we are seeing now lots of direct to consumer brand, especially in the US, from Kylie Jenner to, I don't know. There's lots of brands that are able to grow even beyond 100 million revenue. Do you think it might make sense to think about like sub brands powered by such influential people that are maybe active in sports that can be associated with the Haglöfs sports? Is it thinkable, or have you ever been approached by people saying, okay, let's do something together because you are building the best jackets and I'd like to create something together with you?
I would say thinkable to an extent, yes, but quite unlikely. It's quite some effort to create this, and really, if we would create such a white label product for us, it would need to monetize very quickly, because it's quite an inventory risk, right? That you need to manufacture and produce. You have minimum order quantities and so on. So we haven't been approached, and I don't know many cases. There's one brand in our sector that is such a vertical brand, but is not many. Of course, Amazon is trying to set up a few own brands, but apart from that.
Okay, and how do you, maybe that's my last questions here until Lina steps in again. How do you manage especially this kind of Amazon problem? Because they might know or they learn that maybe your backpack is selling very well, although it might be super expensive. So, and then they would try to produce something on their own, or like they would sneak their own products into the product detail page and say, okay, you might buy the Haglöf's backpack, but for only half of the price, you are getting a similar product. So something that Zalando About You would use against Amazon when you are like in the yearly discussions with saying, okay, how are we like growing together? How can we support you? So how do you manage it? So going back to the Vorwerk example.
Yes.
So they're kind of super limited. They don't sell at Amazon at all. So when anybody is looking for a Thermomix at Amazon, then I don't know, the Grundig multi kitchen machine for €50 comes up. So that's not the best situation actually. So you are able to sell via Amazon, but knowing that they might trick you in the future. How do you handle it?
Yeah, and I think when we look at the consumer that shops on Amazon, it's more, I would say, from our target audience, more the classic hiker. So it's a consumer that is not willing to spend so much, and so lower price level, lower engagement, and from that perspective, it might happen that Amazon is creating something similar. But for us, we are a premium brand, and we are quite far from this all entry level business. So we don't see this as a threat, because it's an innovation that really gives us the advantage. So from that perspective, we would rather be happy if we would be copied in that case, and not necessarily threatened.
Okay. Lina?
You spoke a little bit about production earlier, and just a curious question. I mean, I imagine you ship everything from a central warehouse at the moment, or how are you set up logistics?
Yeah, basically the majority of our logistics, we really ship from a place called Avesta in Sweden. And for our marketplace business, we actually ship from a warehouse in Germany.
So it's 2 locations, basically.
It's 2 locations, yes. Primarily. I mean, we have a hub in Asia as well, but primarily these 2.
And production-wise, it's probably more international than that.
Yeah, production-wise, we are, of course, as most of our competitors as well, to quite a high extent in Asia, China, Vietnam. But we also have production in Europe and a bit in the US. So it's spread across. And then, but also materials is spread across the world. We have materials from Italy, also of course from China. So our supply chain is a bit complex, but yes.
I imagine. What are the milestones? Seeing that sort of the history of online sales is quite young in a very traditional company. What are the milestones that you're most looking forward to in the coming months or the rest of the year?
That's a good question. The milestones, I think for us, it's the next step really is CRM. Alex was talking about customer acquisition and repurchase rates, and that's really one of our focus areas that we want to avoid too much of acquiring the same customer again and again, of course. So setting up our CRM strategy and process and system is, I think, the biggest one that I'm looking forward to.
And what are you looking into then system wise? So there are a lot of people like from the e-commerce industry, vendors are listening now, and from a certain level, I'm 100% sure you're gonna run your ecosystem, your infrastructure on Spryker. But like looking at CRM, and I talk to a lot of brands that are having a hard time finding the right providers, and they usually stick to the email system, and like kind of build around like the email system to send more personalized email messages. So what's your view here? And you can demand anything you want because maybe there's somebody listening who can help you.
Yeah, here this is a bit a tricky one politically. As I mentioned, we belong to the ASICS Corporation, and system-wise for our e-commerce suite, we really use the framework from ASICS, and that is Salesforce Commerce Cloud for the web shop, and also Marketing Cloud for the CRM part. Do we have some freedom here? Yes, but we typically follow the mother company and just, hop on.
Okay, that's a set information, but even ASICS can learn in the future to choose the right tool when it comes to direct selling. So when not only products must make a difference, but when the selling process itself.
I get the feeling you have an own interest in that.
Yeah, that is correct, but his own interest is 100% in line with your interest, which is winning. but we don't need to stick here on this topic. So apart from like integrating CRM and like rolling out maybe into Eastern Europe countries, is there anything else you're looking into the next 12 months, which will be super exciting?
Definitely content. So setting up the content strategy and reworking the customer journey so that we can guide the consumer better finding the right product. And these are the things that I'm looking forward. And then that's more from the e-com perspective, but also further marketplace rollouts that will be quite heavily as well.
Mm. And there's my last question for this podcast would be the marketplaces. They try to now get rid of the inventory risk. They will come to you and say, Moritz, we will list everything you have. You have to take care of like the product information of course. We might buy some top sellers. So 10 of your 808 articles we might buy, and we take the risk, but we know we're going to sell them. All the rest that's on your inventory, on your warehouse.
Yep.
How do you feel about this kind of strategy, and how do you manage it?
How do you feel? I don't want to say, but this, of course, is a massive shift in our business model. Very clear. We were very wholesale driven. And now the wholesale partners and now marketplaces are shifting that risk over to us. So how do I feel about it? Well, that's reality. And we react on this by setting up our structure. So we have our in our middleware for marketplaces. We have our warehouse for the marketplaces, and we use one stock to serve all the marketplaces. So that way we can make that efficient. And ideally, we would also want to combine that with our e-com stock as well. So we have one stock and we can serve wherever the consumer wants to purchase it.
Okay. So Lena, do you have also a last question here for Moritz?
I actually have a curious question. When talking about some of the plans that you have moving on, Can you think of anyone that has actually solved this in your segment particularly well? Not necessarily, of course, alluding to a certain competitor. But is there some brand that you think has really nailed this?
Nailed? What do you mean by nailed this?
For example, the focus that you were speaking about in terms of establishing CRM. Moving on, is there anyone that inspires you?
In our segment, not really. But of course, we are trying to look outside of our segment, especially to get some more insights and benchmarks. But there's no other player that I would now call out to say this is really our role model that we're looking at. It's several different ones.
Would you say that it's not being solved particularly well in your segment overall just yet? If there's no other business that you can kind of think of?
To an extent, I would say that, yes. Basically, you can look at our industry, the outdoor industry, as being a couple of years behind the sports industry. Let's say the multi-sport industry, and that industry is a bit behind the fashion industry when it comes to digitalization. So from that perspective, it's quite common that we are not necessarily as an industry in a leader position.
Mm-hmm. No, because I was just thinking, I can probably name a couple of rather attractive brands in your segment in Sweden, but none of which I would say have been excelling in terms of their online presence so far and their online sales. So that makes sense, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I don't know a brand like from influencers that focused like on performance stuff. The stuff we have seen like in direct to consumer, like new brands popping up, or kind of like mainstream products, easy to produce, high margins, easy to all product that that would benefit lots of the followership of those influencers. And you're like in a very special area. It's even promoting stuff from Haglöfs on Zalando and About You is kind of special because you have to target like maybe 3-4% of their users, whereas I don't know, Adidas could target 80% of the users. So it's super niche, and that I think that is like that makes the challenge even harder for you. But it also protects against other entrants from other markets because you really know your customers, and there's not such a high churn. So when you ever find a customer for your products and he's really okay with the products, like he will probably be very, very loyal to your brand over the next years, and that would even lead to a potential customer lifetime value calculation. Something that's not possible for brands on the lower end, for mainstream brands. So they cannot calculate in customer lifetime value. You could maybe calculate in customer lifetime value, which makes a direct to consumer strategy even more interesting, but obviously you would have to upgrade the technology stack for doing it. So that's clear, I would say.
No, but Alex, I fully agree with your summary. And we have such a low claim rate, we call it, that really our customers that have our product are so happy, and that really brings them back. So from that perspective, I can only urge everybody to give it a try and have a look at the fantastic brand.
Yeah, very cool. I can recommend every listener here to this podcast to buy a Haglöfs product. That's the last windbreaker or rain protecting jacket he or she would ever need. It's really cool. I think Lena will agree. But Moritz, thank you for your time. We are already like hitting the 45 minutes mark, which is optimal for our podcast. And happy to see you again in real life after Corona.
Thank you, Lena. Thank you, Alex. Pleasure to be here.
I hope you enjoyed this episode. If so, please go to iTunes and type in a positive review for the Wimlex show. You will listen to new Wimlex guests in the next weeks. One of them will be the head of IT of Rose Bikes, one of the most successful bike manufacturers in the German market. Philippe, the founder and CEO of Mano Mano, will be guest, and we will listen to the story of Volvo Care, a very interesting initiative from the automaker Volvo from Sweden.